Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Daniels, owner of Wicked Rainmaker and Exactly What to Say certified guide, here to have a great conversation about sales and answer some questions that are most often asked. And I will have my co-host, Miss Nicole Kramer, introduce herself as well.
Hello there. I'm Nicole Kramer. I am the owner of TNC Speaking and Coaching. I help people master their sales conversations so that they're turning more of them into clients. And we are coming to you today with 5 questions that we get asked quite often in the roles that we play and the ways that we show up for our clients. And so we wanted to share some of those answers here with you today so that you can take action and start improving your own conversations.
All right. Miss Nicole is on the hot seat first. I was going to say the chopping block, not the chopping block. The hot seat first. What is one phrase or thing that instantly changes the tone of the conversation, Nicole?
The first thing that comes to my mind are the 4 cornerstones that we teach. Andrea and I are both Exactly What to Say certified guides, and the cornerstones, the magic phrases are one thing. Those are exciting and helpful, but the approach to conversations is really important. And so the thing that stands out to me the most, I think, is curiosity. When you approach a conversation with curiosity, it changes the feel versus showing up like you have the answer.
And in solution mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We
when
call it advice monster, right? Like too many people show up as an advice monster. Like I can help you. I've got the way. And you can have confidence in your ability to help someone, but you've got to show up to that conversation with the intention to help them have confidence in you. And you do that by approaching it with curiosity.
That's a great one with Nicole. And I think it's funny because we asked ourselves the same question and we didn't tell each other our answer until after we both answered it. And my go-to with that out of the 4 cornerstones is is people do things for their reasons, not yours. And when I know I'm showing up in a conversation and I am not tied to the outcome, what decision they make, or I really release that, to me, that is something that is going to instantly change the conversation, because there's nothing at stake for it. Whether I'm going to get hired, whether they make the decision I want. Once I release my ownership to the outcome, which is people do things for their reasons, not yours, and I make it all about them, I know I show up, like Nicole said, with more curiosity, more grace, more empathy, more relatability, because I don't care what the outcome is. So they do tie in together. To me, if I just remember it's not about me, that anxiety, that trying to navigate the conversation a certain way, that just releases. And that's also tied, like I said, tied to the piece that Nicole used with curiosity. It allows you to be really curious because you're not tied to the outcome.
Yeah, too many people assume why the other person's there in the conversation. So when we stay curious, we do exactly what you said. We uncover those reasons, and that's exactly where we want to go with it. So here's another question we get very often, because I think most people are questioning how often they're talking in a conversation versus how often they're listening. So the question that I hear a lot is, how do you know when to be silent instead of speak? Because we also can't just show up and not say anything, right? So how do we know when to stay silent, when to speak?
It's a great question, Nicole. And I bet you're a bit like me. And if you're a chatty Cathy, you tend to talk at the same time as other people. And then you sometimes miss words. I mean, it literally happens to me all the time. So some of the things that, how do you know when to be silent instead of to speak? Well, I think you should let the other person talk and wait until they're finished, number one. But after you ask a question, comes from our friend Tanis, instead of your mind racing about what you're going to say next, a tactile cue that she has for to distract yourself from thinking about the next question and speaking is to hold your hands in front of you. And that stops your brain from continuing to move. So if I know that I want to interrupt them, which often happens in my brain, I can fold my hands in front of me and listen. I tend to put my hands behind me and walk closer to the person if I'm instructing. And if you're looking for the timing of it, I always like to ask a question, someone responds, and they might ask me a question. I'm going to answer the question and then ask a question and pause. I'm going to make sure that question is very concise and it's not a long drawn out story. So there's a reason you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I would say if you're in a sales conversation and you are talking more than 20% of the time or more than 30% of the time, you're speaking too much. The other person should be talking and answering your questions and give you as much context as possible before you ever lay any content on them. Miss Nicole, how do you know when to be silent instead of speaking?
Well, I would again lean into the cornerstones. And as we know, the person in control of the conversation is the person asking the questions. So when we show up to conversations, we actually shouldn't be showing up to talk. We should be showing up to discover, to uncover, to explore. And the way that we do that is by getting curious and asking questions. So I would say you want to be silent after you've asked a question, because you're going to uncover so much context. And, people get nervous. We all get nervous in our important conversations. But when you've prepared and you've done the work before the work, quite often you show up with with questions ready to ask. And then you can really be in the moment. You can be present and you can listen because you've designed questions that you know are going to be really helpful for moving the conversation forward and uncovering really helpful context. So I think it's very important to stay silent, allow the other person to talk when you've asked a very good question that allows them to share.
Love that. All right. So your next question is, Nicole, what words do you avoid because they kill momentum?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is cost. I think when we're talking about anything, when someone is potentially using their money, let's say I like to use the word investment, the last thing we really want to do is refer to it as a cost, because costs are associated with things like tickets and charges and things that aren't necessarily seen in a, or felt in a good light. Like, I don't like getting a speeding ticket. What's the cost of the speeding ticket? So avoiding words like that can trigger, that are actually incorrect based on what we're asking someone to do. Because whether it's a home or a service or a product, we're asking them to invest in that experience. So I think that's one specific word. But, even this morning I was working with a client and the word major is what she was using in front of investment. And I said, is there a different way instead of major investment that we could still make an impact with what you're saying? And we landed on important. It's an important investment. So sometimes just these little simple swaps, that's what we call it in the Exactly What to Say world, which is something we do in our certification program. We have a whole day where we really dig into what are some simple swaps with the words that you're using right now that might be hurting you, that if we swap them out, it will have more of a positive impact in the conversation.
Great.
What about you?
When I look at that word, what words do I avoid to kill momentum? The words that I avoid are transactional type words, like Nicole said, as well as words that are a certain industry jargon. For example, if I'm a real estate professional, I might say MLS, which is multiple listing service. If I'm also a real estate agent, I might say selling. When you think about selling versus when you think about potentially making a move. So I'm going to avoid transactional words, heavy, clunky words. I'm going to make not dumb them down, but use more layman's term words. And I'm also going to do my best to help other people, whether we're in class teaching or it's myself, avoid using jargon that may be amongst a different community. For example, there's a word that Chris and I talk about that he's not a fan of, which is cohort, which means a group of people. And cohort, you might be like, what are you, uppity? Why are you using cohort? Versus, hey, the group of people that I belong to, or the cohort. So it's different. What lands with more people more of the time, it's something else we discuss in the certification, is what are some potentially negative words or transactional type words that could be hurting us that we don't even know.
Well, and I like what you said too about like making a move versus selling, because to me, if we're talking in the world of sales, we always want to be attaching it to what they actually want. They don't actually want to sell their house. They want to move for some reason. It's like if you're a personal trainer and you're like, how do you feel about lunges? Maybe not try to sell the lunges so hard, but actually sell the outcome of what that lunge is going to do for them. The outcome of what that house sale is going to do for them is a better way to move the conversation forward and show them what they're actually moving towards.
Absolutely. And then let's see, the next question is there a magic word, Nicole, that gets people to listen more closely? Word or phrase?
The one that comes to mind for me, it's a phrase. Help me. And some of the phrases that we teach in our certification for exactly what to say are things like, help me understand. Well, everybody loves to give help, right? And when you say the word help, it triggers a different feeling in that person's mind. Help me understand. They're like, oh, I'll explain it differently. I'll explain it better. I'll share more. It's a gentle way of saying, tell me more without saying, tell me more, because that can sound a little bit too demandy. I don't know if that's a word, but we're using it. So I like help me. I also like, I'm curious. I started off by saying curiosity helps you approach conversations better, but I also think just saying, hey, I'm curious is a way to help someone feel like, wow, she wants to know more about me. She wants me to talk more. Great. She's curious to learn more. Cool.
I love that. Thank you, Nicole. This is probably maybe it's just me. It's actually, and I've watched a lot of speakers and a lot of sales professionals do this. It's not a magic word that gets people to listen more closely. It's actually what I call the pregnant pause, which is actually silence.
Mhm.
And it could be a few things. I do like, what makes you say that, especially when you're at a loss for words. That's a good phrase. I definitely like help me understand. But it's more just being quiet and leaning in, because with that pause, you could be processing, you could be buying yourself time. We are so efficient in conversation, going back and forth like a ping pong table, that if you take the time to pause and think before you speak or ask a question, they're going to want to know more. You're going to have a higher demand of what they want to know, what you're saying next, because you're being quiet and you're thinking about what you're saying. And it happens a lot because I don't process as quick as I speak. So when I don't say something right away, people are like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, it's going to take me a minute to process it. I don't process as quick as I speak. So I think you can draw people in to listen closely more when you slow the conversation down, and it's not even one phrase. You ask way more intentional questions. So I would say slowing the conversation down and pausing, Nicole.
It made me think of when you said that, we've become so efficient with our conversations. We've stopped being effective and we're not really listening. You and I talk about this a lot, Andrea. If you go through the motions of, hey, how are you? What does the other person say?
I'm good. How are you? And
I'm good. Then nobody heard what anybody said. We just went through this song and dance of, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm good. But if you pause, like if we did that again, hey, Andrea, how are you?
Yep, I'm good. Am I supposed to say something different?
No, just go ahead and say I'm good.
I'm good, Nicole. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I'm having a pretty good day.
There's a little bit of hesitancy there, my friend. But
you heard it differently, right? Like that, just that pausing, almost like, because we don't go automatically through the song and dance, that pause really does make the conversation a little bit more in that moment, intentional versus just going through the motions. So I love your suggestion of a pause being what actually can make people lean in.
I mean, just imagine if I said to Nicole, I asked this question differently, like, hey, Nicole, the last time we chatted, I know you had a big contract out. Did you hear back on that yet? If it's something that Nicole's been planning on or she's excited about or that she wants to hear back on, and say we'd prepped it together, that would be more meaningful than asking Nicole how she's doing. She might have a headache today. I don't want to know if she has a headache. I want to know what she's excited about in life. So make sure your you could be a little more intentional. Go
ahead. Okay, so here is a really good final fifth question. How do you structure a message so people actually remember it?
This took me a little practice to get to, because I like to cover a lot of ground. I like to get married on the first date, but we've stopped that in the last 2 years. So anytime I'm sending a text message, well, this is when I'm paying attention. So please apologize to anyone who gets a long text message from me. But when I'm intentionally sending a text message, whether to friend, family member, prospect, colleague, I think about what I'm going to say. Number one, there's no fluff in there. And I make the question easy to answer. So an opening fact question, which is one of the formulas in the book, it's opening, my name and my company. I might not need to say that in the email. A mutually agreeable fact and easy to answer question. So if I want a text message or an email or a voicemail responded, I'm going to ask a very easy to answer question where someone can easily say yes or no. The days of long copy on emails for auto plans, if I'm helping a real estate professional write an auto plan, or for buy-ins for text messages, or for a post on social media, I've made the buy-in a lot shorter. I don't want them to have to read a wall of text because I know I maybe have 10 seconds with that person with everything else they have to do, and I don't want them to put me on the shelf. So I would say structure message people actually remember it. Be super intentional about the question. Don't use broad, sweeping questions that everyone else in my industry is using. Super intentional, super personal messages, and make it easy to answer. How about you, Nicole? How would you structure a message so people actually remember it?
I would take out I language as much as possible and make the message about them instead of making it about, because I think so many people are like, I would love to. I'm just checking in. I'm just following up. And I'm just touching base. And as we know, nobody wants their base touched, right? Like, it's still funny when we say it. And I think all of that is the message that they're getting is that it's about what you want and what your agenda is. So I think, and Andrea nailed it with like, keep it short. Ain't nobody got time for a long message right now. And for you to like verbal diarrhea all over them, there's a time and a place for longer messages. But I think in most structuring of communication, brevity will serve you much better, and making it about them in your messaging versus I language and making it about what you are looking to do.
I'm so glad you mentioned touching base, Nicole. I was feeling kind today, and I got a missed call from a company called Salesforce. Love Salesforce. Used to use them in corporate America because I downloaded one of their marketing PDFs. They've been calling me forever. I was like, you know what? I really owe it to this salesperson. Instead of deleting the message, I'm just going to call them back. So I went to listen to the message. They called me from a disguised number. So calling the number back, which was 484-610, that wasn't bringing me to it. So I listened to the voice message. I can't understand the phone number. It's either 617 or 647. I can't understand the girl's name. And when I called it, I didn't get a human. So if you're going to leave a voice message, your name clearly, your phone number clearly, and maybe say it twice. I can't even call her back to say, hi, I'm not interested in Salesforce. I really just wanted the free download. And hey, what's your address? I'll send you a free book. Exactly what to say. Because it's either 647 or 617, but since it's a disguised number, I can't call the number back that called me. And I can't even call the main number at Salesforce because I don't understand her name in the voice message. If I played it for you, which I won't embarrass anybody on social media, even though I'd really love to, you can understand. I listened to it 3 times. I'm like, what's the point? This is what you get. This is what you get. If I can't understand your voice message, you're going to have to keep calling me until one day I have a chance to pick up and tell you that you shouldn't be calling me and you're wasting your time.
Which this conversation right here and right now is not about this, but let me just use it to emphasize a point. Another important reason why we make sure that we follow up. How do you know they heard the message? How do you know they got the message? How do you know they could understand what you said in the message? And so often people fail to follow up enough times and they make it something else in their mind when actually, in all actuality, it might have nothing to do with that. Like in Andrea's case, if that woman called back, you'd be available for a conversation, but you have no way to call her back.
Yeah.
So the fortunes and the follow-up. Hopefully these answers to these 5 questions helped. Like we said, these are questions that we get from many people who are looking to improve their conversations. And we wanted to share these with you so that you could see some of the simple tweaks you could be making right now, today, to be more effective for important conversations, not just efficient. And if you are looking for ways to continue to do a deep dive and improve your level of influence and competence in your conversations, the good news is Andrea and I have a way for you to do that.
Yeah, I will put it in the threat.
We have a program that is a 4-month program where we meet and study the different ways, phrases, tips, cornerstones that will allow you to approach your conversations, not just with competence, but confidence, so that you can create more opportunities and convert those opportunities.
Awesome. All right. See you later, everybody.
In the comments, reach out if you have any questions, and comment what your favorite takeaway was. We'll see you all soon.
Hi, I'm Nicole Kramer.
And I'm Andrea Ferry Daniels.
and we are Exactly What to Say certified guides. And we are so thrilled to announce that we are coming back with an incredible program for you called Exactly What to Say. And the people that are perfect for this opportunity are professionals in their industry that are looking to up-level how they show up to the critical moments that matter in their life.
If you're interested in this program, the link is in the comments below, or feel free to reach out to Nicole or I directly through Instagram or phone call.
We'd love to see you there.